Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something that subtly shapes how many of us view our romantic lives. The often, well, unrealistic portrayal of relationships on social media.
Hmm.
We've got two insightful pieces with us behind the filters. The reality of social media love stories and relationships on social media can't be trusted.
Right.
Our aim is to really dig into why those picture-perfect hashtag couple goals posts you see scrolling through your feed might not be the full story and
Hmm.
what that can mean for how you see your own relationship.
Exactly. Our mission today is to dissect these online presentations, maybe understand some of the psychology,
Mm-hmm.
the relationship dynamics at play,
Yeah.
and ultimately just bring some clarity. We want to help you avoid those, often unhelpful comparisons
Right.
and focus more on the reality of your own connection.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Right off the bat, this idea of the highlight reel comes up. We all kind of know what's happening, but what do our sources really say about this, specifically for relationships?
Well, what's fascinating, I think, is how deliberate it all is, what gets shared.
Mm-hmm.
Like one source points out, these posts are curated snippets. They're intentional choices showing the good
The
moments.
romantic dinners, the vacations.
Exactly. The cozy nights, the laughing selfies. But what you don't see are the everyday disagreements
Right. Or just being bored sometimes.
or the insecurities or just the regular rhythm of daily life. Every real relationship has that stuff.
And psychologically, there's something there, isn't there? Like, we see it so much.
Yeah, it links to something called the availability heuristic. Basically, we tend to think things we see often and vividly are, well, more common than they really are.
Ah, okay.
So social media floods us with these perfect moments, making them seem like the norm.
It really is like flipping through someone's vacation photos, isn't it? You see the amazing views, the fun activities,
But you miss the lost luggage, the arguments about directions.
or the sunburn. Yeah.
Precisely. And this curated feed can easily make you think, wow, their relationship is just perfect. No challenges at all.
Which is impossible, really.
Right. And Laura, who's quoted in one article, asked this great question. Is this a genuine portrayal of love or just a show put on for getting views?
Oof. That hits hard. It gets to that potentially manufactured side of things.
It really
And
does.
it's not just the pictures, is it? It's the captions, too.
Oh, definitely. Those captions can be just as crafted.
Like these huge declarations of love, my partner is perfect, always knows what to say.
Yeah, this constant stream of idealized, well, fairy tales, almost.
So what does that do to you when you read that stuff all the time?
Well, that's the important question, isn't it? If you're constantly seeing these pronouncements of like flawless romance,
Mm-hmm.
it's only natural to look at your own partner who's human and therefore not perfect.
Thankfully.
Haha, right.
Yeah.
And you might think, well, we don't have that constant perfection. These little comparisons, they can really chip away at your appreciation for what you actually do have.
Mhm. And social media itself, it almost seems built to encourage this, doesn't it? The embellishment.
Absolutely. The whole platform seems to reward the most visually appealing stuff, the most exciting looking parts of life, including relationships.
So the focus goes to the big things.
Yeah, the grand gestures,
Mm.
surprise parties, fancy trips, expensive gifts. Those are the moments people capture and share.
And that creates this impression that those are the things that define a happy relationship.
Exactly. While the quieter stuff,
Mm.
the everyday things.
Like doing groceries together or just being there when someone's had a bad day.
Right, or making dinner together. That stuff rarely makes the feed.
And the idea that some romantic moments might actually be staged just for the gram.
It's a bit unsettling, yeah. But in this climate of chasing likes and validation, it feels, well, possible.
Plausible, even.
It really shows that performative side that social media can bring into relationships. The reason behind doing something might shift
From connecting with your partner.
to getting a good shot for your followers, getting those likes.
Okay, so we're swimming in these curated highlights, these maybe embellished versions. What effect does that have on our own expectations? What we think relationships should be like?
Well, connecting it to the bigger picture, this constant exposure can seriously skew your idea of what a healthy, normal relationship looks like.
Right.
You might subconsciously start thinking that if your relationship isn't always full of grand gestures and perfect scenes,
Means something's wrong with it.
exactly, that it's somehow not good enough,
Mhm.
inadequate.
It's that little nagging feeling, isn't it? Why don't we do that?
Hmm.
And you end up feeling like your own relationship, which is probably perfectly fine with its ups and
It's
downs.
somehow lacking compared to this online fantasy.
Yeah.
And our sources actually give a really good example of this. A 19-year-old woman felt insecure because her boyfriend didn't post about her online.
Wow. Okay.
And this desire for public validation, well, psychologists might link that to something called anxious attachment, meaning some people have a stronger need for reassurance in their relationships. And research suggests that people with this style are more likely to make these kinds of comparisons on social media.
That makes sense. Then there's this whole other layer, the pressure to keep up appearances online.
Oh, definitely. It's not just about your internal expectations anymore.
It's about projecting this image of happiness to everyone else.
And what's interesting is how that pressure plays out.
Mm.
You might feel like you always have to put on a happy face online.
Even if you're going through a rough patch.
Exactly. You end up sort of suppressing real issues, performing happiness for your followers.
And that could even change what you do, right? Feeling like you need to have those big, maybe expensive, romantic gestures.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Not because it's genuinely you or even affordable.
But because it's what you see everyone else doing online.
Yeah, you feel like you should be doing it. And this pressure, it can even make people stay in relationships that aren't working anymore.
Really. Just because of social media.
Well, think about it. Concern about how it would look if the perfect online couple suddenly split up.
That's intense.
And there's also pressure on single people, maybe to rush into something just so they have relationship content to share, to feel validated online.
Wow. Okay, so all this comparing, all this pressure, it sounds like it could easily make you feel pretty bad about yourself or your relationship, like you're just not measuring up.
The sources absolutely highlight that harmful impact. Constantly comparing your actual lived relationship
Messy reality.
to these super curated online versions. It often leads to judging yourself, judging your partner, seeing your own relationship as inadequate.
You're holding up someone else's highlights as the standard.
And your reality, which is perfectly normal and imperfect, just can't compete with that.
And this isn't just anecdotal, right? There's actual research.
Yeah. One article mentions a potential link.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing lots of self-enhancing posts from others
Yeah.
might correlate with depressive symptoms.
That's significant.
It is. And other research, using correlations, suggests that spending more time on social networking might negatively impact relationship dynamics, potentially less intimacy.
Because you're spending time looking at others instead of connecting with your partner.
Possibly. You might be investing less time and energy, in nurturing your own actual connection.
That example of Claire in one article really stuck with me.
Oh, yeah.
She saw some small, cute interaction online between a couple and suddenly felt like her relationship was missing something similar.
Right.
It shows how even tiny things can plant these seeds of dissatisfaction.
That's such a powerful example how easily influenced we can be by these constructed narratives. Even little posts can trigger that feeling of less than.
And then there's the whole falling behind thing.
Oh, yes.
It's like social media speeds up this imaginary relationship timeline. Moving in, engagement, marriage, kids.
Exactly. When you see announcement after announcement, especially from people you feel are like peers, it can really create this feeling of being left behind if you're not hitting those same milestones.
Gloria's story really captured that. Her friend got engaged.
And suddenly she's questioning why her partner hasn't proposed, even though they'd been together a similar time.
Yeah.
And it's so crucial to remember what the sources say. These milestones aren't universal.
Right. Everyone's different. Every couple is different.
Exactly. Relationships move at their own pace, on their own path. There's no set timeline you have to follow. Comparing is usually just unhelpful. Creates anxiety.
It's also worth thinking, maybe sometimes these perfect online relationships are actually masking problems.
That's a really important point. Like a way to hide difficulties.
Putting on a brave face, digitally.
Yeah. Couples might build this ideal image to cover up all sorts of things. Money stress, constant arguments,
Infidelity, even.
or just a lack of real connection. And ironically, all the energy spent on maintaining that perfect online image.
You could be spent actually working on the relationship.
Exactly. It might divert energy from actually addressing the real problems.
It's a sobering thought, isn't it, that the most perfect online couples might be struggling the most in private.
It really drives home that you just never know the full story from social media.
Okay, so this leads to a really interesting counter idea that the sources bring up.
Mm-hmm.
That genuinely happy couples might actually post less online.
Yes. It seems counterintuitive, right, in our hyper-online world.
Totally. So why would happier couples maybe share less.
Well, the reasoning is pretty insightful. First, couples who are truly content, they often just prioritize their time
They're
together.
busy being together.
Basically, their focus is on experiencing the moment, engaging with each other, not necessarily on capturing it perfectly for Instagram.
They want the date night to be good, not just the post about the date night.
Precisely. Their attention is on the experience itself, not on getting validation for it.
That makes a lot of sense.
And secondly, secure, happy couples often just don't feel the need for that external approval.
Their validation comes from inside the relationship.
Exactly. Their well-being, the strength of their bond, it's internal,
Mm.
not dependent on likes or comments. They don't need to constantly prove their happiness.
And they probably show their love in quieter ways too, right?
More private, intimate ways, small gestures, inside jokes, quiet understanding, stuff that doesn't really translate to a social media post.
Or isn't meant to.
Right. And this contrasts with couples who might feel less secure. They might post more frequently, almost seeking reassurance.
From others, or maybe even from themselves.
Yeah, perhaps subconsciously convincing themselves and everyone else that things are great.
Okay, so when we inevitably do get caught in that comparison trap, looking at these often unreal posts, what are the actual negative consequences?
Well, the sources point to several things we've touched on. Unrealistic expectations, obviously,
Right.
but also dwelling on what you think is wrong with your own relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Unfairly blaming your partner for not being like some online ideal. And, yeah, in more serious cases, it can actually create distance or conflict because of these unrealistic demands and constant comparing.
Okay, so we get it. The comparison game is bad news. What can we actually do? What are some practical ways to break free from this?
Well, the first, maybe most obvious step is just consciously limiting your time on social media.
Just less scrolling.
Yeah. One study mentioned links increased phone use, time spent not with your partner, to lower marital satisfaction. So reducing that exposure is key.
Makes sense. Fewer chances for those comparisons to even happen. What else?
It can be really helpful to get specific. Identify your triggers.
Like what kind of posts really get to you?
Exactly. Is it certain types of photos, specific captions? Once you know what sets you off, you can be more mindful when you see it.
And actively push back in your mind. Remind yourself it's curated.
Right. Remind yourself of all the stuff we've talked about today. Challenge that negative comparison.
That self-awareness sounds crucial. And then maybe take action, like unfollowing certain accounts.
Definitely. If specific influencer couples, or even just friends whose posts always seem perfect, consistently make you feel bad,
It's okay to unfollow.
it's absolutely okay. It's
Okay.
healthy even. You could even try following accounts that feel more authentic, that show the ups and downs.
And then the big one seems to be shifting focus back to your own life, your own relationship.
Yes. Instead of passively watching everyone else's highlight reel.
Actively invest in your own connection.
Absolutely. Make a real effort to be present with your partner. Put the phone away during quality time. Have real conversations.
Maybe resist that urge to immediately post every nice moment. Just enjoy it.
Exactly. Enjoy it for what it is, not for the potential post.
And cultivating gratitude seems important too. Focusing on the good stuff you do have.
This can be incredibly powerful. Make it a habit. Think about your partner's good qualities, the nice things they do.
Tell them maybe?
Even better, expressing that gratitude strengthens the bond and your own satisfaction.
And finally, this really lands for me, focusing on your own path, your own timeline, not letting other people's announcements make you feel rushed or inadequate.
Precisely. Remember, Aria, feeling pressured by your friend's engagement. It's so vital to remember every relationship is different. What's right for one couple isn't necessarily right for another, or right now.
Don't feel pressured by external benchmarks.
Focus on building a relationship that fits your values, your pace, your shared goals, whatever they may be. Marriage isn't the only path, for instance.
This has been, wow, really insightful, lots to think about. The main takeaway feels so clear.
Yeah.
Social media gives us this really distorted view of relationships. And comparing our real complex lives to those curated highlights, it's just not helpful. It can actually be damaging.
Exactly. It's about being more mindful, more critical of what you see online, and choosing consciously to prioritize the realness, the growth, the unique thing you have with your partner, all its perfectly imperfect moments.
Right. So here's a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe chew on. Take a moment, reflect. How much time, how much mental energy are you actually spending watching other people's relationships online versus actively nurturing your own?
That's a great question.
And think about this. What one small shift in focus could you make, maybe starting today, to pour more of that energy back into the real connection right there in front of you? What might that do for your own happiness, your own satisfaction?